we're going to call the committee a whole meeting at 7:01 and stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce is absent. Trustee Masek,
Here.
trustee Yost,
Present.
trustee Dominiac. Here. Trustee Polis is absent. Trustee Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Hansen.
Here. We will not have anybody absentee voting tonight. Scott Pierce is on a vacation and Ted's son's getting married in Vegas, so he won't be attending. First on the agenda tonight, we have the approval of the September 23rd, 2020 special meeting and committee of the whole minutes as presented. I'll need a motion in a
So
second.
moved.
Motion by trustee Masek. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Yost. Do I have any questions, trustee Masek?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
And trustee Johnson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll ask the clerk to get the roll, please.
Masek,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
4 voting yes, 2 are absent. This motion's carried. We have 4 items tonight on the regular meeting agenda. We have our first item will be presented by our Director of Community Development. It's facade grant request from Dr. Bellucci. And Michael, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This matter comes before you, Your Honor, for a request for a business incentive grant. As you recall, we approved that program last year. This applicant is coming for you. What they're proposing is the proposed facade change to the building. The property is located at 425 Lake Street. Property was previously commonly known as Chase Manufacturing Bay.
Michael, use this. You're not talking about this.
Property was previously Chase Manhattan Bank. Dr. Bellucci has converted the property into a medical office. To give you context, the actual building, this is on Lake Street. There is also a retail building to the rear. The applicant is requesting a maximum grant. The proposed project would incorporate approximately $90,000. Staff did an analysis. We scored this based on our analysis at 7. So based on our proposed concept, it's rated low. So we're not in a position to make a favorable recommendation, but that completes our analysis. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Masek, any?
Just for the audience and people on Zoom, can you explain what the 7 means on a scale of?
Yes, there's a maximum scoring. So based on the site's potential positive impact on a corridor, potential on the sales tax, obviously properties which generate more sales tax, properties which have a better amenity, positive appearance, more of amenity from a design perspective, score higher. So we have a maximum scoring of, I think, 30 points. So this would actually be in the lower strata. Therefore, staff's not making a recommendation, but our position is based on, as you know, we have limited funds, especially during the downturn. We have had previous discussions with some other businesses who've expressed interest in potential business incentive grants, which would have a sales tax aspect to it. So unfortunately, in this particular case, staff did not score this actual application particularly high. We're very excited and happy that we took that a vacant bank has been converted into a medical office. They've done actually a very impressive job inside. It's an old building that probably dates back to the late 60s, 1970s. You can see the predominantly all brick. It's a high-quality structure. The applicant's proposing to incorporate a stone veneer on all four sides. And from staff's perspective, that may be the prerogative, but we did not score it particularly high. We did not believe it would have a dramatic positive impact on Lake Street. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
I got one more question. So this is on Lake Street. This is the corridor for a business district. That being said, the other places within that mall, that strip mall, so how many of those businesses, those office buildings are vacant?
The majority of that building's vacant. As we
Okay,
know. There's a barber shop.
So is that taken factor that some of those businesses could be turned into sales revenue, sales tax? If they were rented, if that building was improved, or that would make that more valuable to rent?
Respectively, I would submit that I think that building from a retail perspective is very challenged because of visibility. It does not have great exposure. The actual design of that building is probably more focused on offices. I think historically it has been, there's been a barber shop there for many years, but historically it's been offices. So I think it's perfect for insurance offices, medical offices, financial advisors. I think there's a construction company in there, but the very inherent nature of that building is really not geared towards commercial, just by limited visibility. It's set back fairly well back from the parking lot, so it doesn't have great frontage on Lake Street. It's set back.
Second question would be, would that building help the rest of the downtown business district if that building looked better? Would that incite the rest of the businesses?
Not from a
For a
again,
retail status, if that building wasn't dilapidated and it had a fresher look, would that help the rest of the downtown business district to maybe thrive because we didn't have one building stand out and the rest of the town flowed in to make it a better look?
I think if you if you improve the appearance of that building, it would make it more viable for additional offices, but not for retail.
That's not what I asked.
Well, that's
So
my-
you got the bakery, you got that building. If it flowed in to make the rest of the business district more flowing for the eyes, to make the whole business district look as one, instead of having basically a building that looked different than the rest of the business district.
Well,
So you're helping, just because this building's out here, so you're making the rest of the buildings profit over everything looking better.
well,
So you got the other buildings making retail money because you got everything flowing as one. And you don't sit there and have the other business owners saying, I can't make money because this building looks the way it looks.
No, I respectfully, I do understand your question. So in a vacuum with unlimited funds, are there ways to make this building more architecturally attractive, to basically update the building to consistent with our long-term goals of the business district? Absolutely. But there is a specific criteria, and we live in a world where our resources are finite, especially in today's world. And based on that analysis, based on the fact that we do not believe that this building is really designed to attract retail, we scored it somewhat low.
Anything else, trustee?
No.
Mason? Trustee Yost?
I have no questions. I guess to trustee Masic's point, I think if I'm reading this right, Michael, the only reason this proposal scored as high as it did was because of the visibility from the main corridor, correct? And ultimately that accounts for nearly 50% of the score that they received.
Correct.
I have no other questions. I appreciate the work and the information you provided here. So, thank you.
Trustee Dominiac?
I don't have any questions. I concur with the way you graded this. I think that's one of the things that you're looking for from us, is whether or not we agree with how you graded it or scored it. So I think that, to your point, the fact that we have limited resources and maybe some higher visibility projects that we need to move forward on, I would concur with your evaluation and probably would not recommend us funding this.
Trustee Johnson?
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
I do have one question. My question would be, I think we're at a disadvantage a little bit because you scored it, but we really can't tell what the end product's going to look like, because really all we're looking at is a black and white. You know, it might have fared better if you were able to get a architectural coloring of it, so you can really see if there would be an impact. Because obviously you're talking brick and then you're replacing it basically with a brick product, but this is looks like just a black and white sketch. So really the board up here can't really tell if it's a positive or not. So if this would have an architect actually show us what, like you do with architects, so show you colors, if they would come in and say, this is what it's going to look like, it might have changed the whole look of this whole thing. Because right now you're looking at, this looks just like it is because it's black and white and it's a brick product and that's a brick product. So I don't think I'd necessarily throw it away yet. I think I would give you the opportunity to maybe have an architect put some color to it. Maybe you can really show it with a colored product and maybe it might change the whole perspective of that look. That's all I have.
And obviously, the applicant has the prerogatives to, proceed with their own design. But I also think that respectfully, I think there are other opportunities to incorporate different design aspects, which maybe have a less of a financial impact on any, on the applicant and also any potential grant. It doesn't have to be all stone. I mean, I'm not sure from a design perspective that necessarily improves the overall appearance, but I think there are some opportunities to improve the appearance from an architectural design perspective.
Okay. Now, Jason, would you be, obviously, that's your call as far as your building, but maybe sit down, maybe there's something you guys can look at possibly, because I know we have some design standards that we're
Correct.
trying to incorporate within the district also.
Right. So I'll be more than happy to work with the applicant.
Okay, the board?
It doesn't really change a lot of the, if I may speak, Your Honor.
Sure.
As I look at the criteria and from what I heard as the answers to the questions by my colleagues, changing the physical appearance really doesn't significantly impact the total score. And I think, again, that certainly if the petitioner wishes to do that, that would be something that I would not be against, but
Okay.
I'm not sure if it would alter my final decision based on our limited resources and where we have other dollars or other places we might get bigger bang for the buck. But certainly the petitioner has the right to go down that path if he chooses.
Anything else from the board at this time? Okay, so looks like,
I can continue to work with the applicant. If they want to make any major changes to their building, they'll have to work with staff on site plan review anyway.
okay,
Whether they come in for a facade grant or a business design grant, we'll continue to basically complete an analysis and make an
Okay.
assessment on that.
okay, thank you. So this will not be forwarded to the meeting then at this particular time.
At this point, I would ask for an opportunity to continue to work
Okay.
with the applicant on their site plan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Yes, you want to speak?
When was that analysis done?
Michael?
There's far more renters in there than just two. So
Well, I think I did have an opportunity to walk through the property when I took the picture. So I believe it's fair to say that the majority, most of the building is vacant right now.
there's only out of maybe there's six spots. There's only 2 vacant spots.
Well, I think it's fair to substantially good size vacant spots. I mean, the building is, I think from a development perspective, we can have a separate discussion. I don't think the building is filled, from a retail perspective, it's clearly not utilized. It's really a secondary building from our perspective.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else, Bob?
No.
Okay, second up, we have Chief Gutchow and Norm Johnson. They're going to be talking to us about discussion regarding police body worn cameras.
Your Honor, member of the board, thank you for this opportunity to present and to come before you tonight to kind of bring the first big step in a discussion that's been going on internally with the police department for the better part of a year and a half. Proud to say, I think we have found a a rather good solution for our camera replacement. As discussed previously, the police department has been in need of a revitalization of its squad mounted dash cam program. And when those discussions started last year, we came to the realization that now was the right time to also look at a body cam platform. And when I was appointed earlier this year into the role that I am now, the mayor made it rather clear that he wanted this to be one of the priorities of the police department. So I'm happy to bring that forward. So one of the first things we need to kind of look at is why would we even want to consider body cams? I think given the current climate in the world, I think one of the biggest advantages of this is it shows that the Antioch Police Department embraces what we're seeing as a national trend of transparency and openness with their community. The use of body-worn cameras, we hope to accomplish many things, including enhancing the public's trust, capturing digital and audio video evidence, assisting our officers with calling factors. There was actually a rather large study released not too long ago by the Force Science Institute regarding the use of body cams and reviewing video and helping a memory of an officer during a critical incident. Obviously, it's also going to capture and preserve interactions between the police officers and the public. It's going to help promote officer safety and assist with our criminal investigations. And I think it would also be impossible to not pay attention to the fact that when people are on cameras, they tend to regulate their behavior a little bit better. So I think one way to look at one of the biggest benefits for body cams from a law enforcement perspective when our encounters with the public is it's going to cause both of those on each side of the lens to be their best selves. So although body cams are not a universally used product in law enforcement now, I think they're quickly growing. And in light of recent events going on in 2020, that they're becoming more and more readily used in law enforcement, and we're seeing their use grow here in Lake County as well. 20 years ago, you hardly saw a dash-mounted cam in a law enforcement vehicle. Now, today, it's become a staple in police vehicles, and you're hard-pressed, especially in Lake County, to find one that's not using them. And I would suspect that if 20 years from now, we look at body cameras, we're going to see much of the same. It's also a good time for us to look at body cams because the support for them has grown to nearly all levels. If you would have asked police officers 10 years ago what their opinions on body cams were, I think you would have seen some reservations. They would have had concerns that Big Brother was watching. Now they see the benefit of them, and we have almost unanimous support from our labor council on the implementation of body cams. The supervisory staff and the command staff fully supports them. It's been very clear that the village administration and the elected body also fully support them. And I think most importantly, our community supports them. During some recent polling conducted by both Reuters and the Cato Institute, independent surveys that they conducted showed that 89 to 92% of Americans think that body cams should be used by their local police departments. We're kind of looking at the history of cameras and their use in the police department. The Antioch Police Department, we first got our first dash cam back in the year 2000. Since that time, we've expanded. In 2007, we purchased our current system that we continue to operate today. We had to replace the server for that system in 2012, and here we are in 2019, looking at finally upgrading that equipment that originally was slated to have a lifespan of between 7 and 10 years. One interesting thing when you look at when we first placed our squad cameras into use in 2007, that was also the same year that the very first iPhone was introduced to the public. So if you think about the type of technology upgrades that we've seen in the private sector, those same technology upgrades would apply in the public sector and camera technology. So I think it's important for us to move along with those times. You don't see a whole lot of people out there still carrying around their original iPhone anymore. So the state of our current system, as I said, it's well exceeded its original anticipated use of 7 to 10 years. We've been very, very efficient at being able to limp it along as long as possible. But now we've kind of reached a point where our current L3 system can no longer get technical support. The parts stream has completely dried up. Our manufacturer quit sourcing parts and manufacturing parts many years ago. And probably for the last 3 or 4 years, we've resorted to creative means such as buying replacement components for our in-car cameras on eBay. And even with those efforts, we're now to a point where 30% of our in-car cameras are no longer operational. When it comes to the storage, the storage server itself, that too is well beyond its anticipated life, having last been upgraded in 2012. IT Amy, as I like to call her, has done a very good job at helping limp it along as long as possible. But now she too has reached a point where Dell will no longer support the server. Upgrades are no longer possible to get. And if it reaches a point of failure, the entire system will no longer be functional. So as we moved into this project of upgrading our in-squad cameras and also looking for an integrated body cam platform, we kind of went out in a bunch of different directions to try to identify what the best product for us was going to be. We took the opportunity when we attended the Illinois Chiefs of Police Association conference in 2019. They have a rather large trade show. We were able to meet and speak with almost every vendor that currently sells in the state of Illinois. And it gave us an opportunity to kind of bounce some questions off of them, hold, touch, feel the products, get a sense for what they look like, how they function in the cars. And we also took opportunities to interview and speak with many of the vendors about their products and got some pricing. And that took place between Panasonic and companies called GetTech, Axon, which many of you have heard of, WatchGuard, and L3 Mobile Vision, who is our current vendor. After we had kind of narrowed it down to that short list of what products we may want to explore, we went a little bit further. We consulted with the outfitter of our squad, who has years and years of history of putting these products into the cars. They're also responsible for having to fix them and repair them. And one of the first names they brought to us was Panasonic. They have had very good success with Panasonic. Like any other electronic device, it's going to fail occasionally. They said their incidence of failure had been rather low, but when they did, the support provided by Panasonic in terms of repair and parts was well above board of many of the other companies that we looked at. After kind of shortening that list even further, we went out and surveyed agencies that are using Panasonic because we kind of honed in on that might be something that we want to look at. And we looked at the end user experience, reliability, and product support. We wanted to make sure we had multiple storage options available, because just because the technology exists for one type of support and storage today doesn't mean that that's going to be the technology that's going to be applicable in the future. And of course, while you don't ever want to make a decision based solely on financial impacts and obligations, it certainly has to be part of the equation. So going through all that, Panasonic quickly rose to the top of our list. And if there's any questions in regards to Panasonic product specifically, we also have our rep here, Mark, be able to answer any questions that are specific to the product. So the package we're looking at contains an in-squad camera system, which has a high definition front-facing camera, also incorporates an internal rear seat camera, both with audio capability. So we're really going to have an idea what's going inside and outside the car during any given incident. As I said, our squad upfitter's recommendation really was at the top. Panasonic reported one of the lowest rates of repair and failure. The departments that we surveyed reported overwhelmingly positive experiences with the Panasonic system, and they reported they had very good support and parts supply from the manufacturer after purchase. One of the big benefits to Panasonic, many of these systems out here that you buy, the current one, even L3, you go to find a part, it may not necessarily be made by L3, and they have a third-party vendor that sources those and manufactures those, which can create some problems. Panasonic parts are all sole sourced, made by Panasonic. They've got a real proven track record of reliability and have demonstrated a quick turnaround on repairs with many of the departments we surveyed. One of their big benefits to try to keep from getting in the situation we are today with our L3 system is Panasonic also guarantees the production of their parts for 7 years once a product is discontinued. So given the fact that we're looking at a brand new generation product, we shouldn't have any problem sourcing parts for at least well into the next decade. And another big benefit is that Panasonic and our vendor CDS is approved through the state of Illinois master contract. So we really felt that Panasonic was a good balance of fit, function, features, usability, and of course, cost. Next slide. So you see before you is kind of the total cost of the packages, integrated in-squad camera system and a body cam package. We're looking to purchase enough body cams to outfit every officer. That'll be from me all the way down to the brand new officers on the street. Feel it's important that we all are held to the same standards. So for the in-squad camera systems, you're looking at the total cost there with a 5-year license for the software. Same with the body cams. Of course, there's always spare parts you have to have. Batteries are going to fail. They are rated for a 12-hour battery life. However, in the world we live in, sometimes our officers find themselves in the field for longer than 12 hours, and we have to have that ability to have a user replaceable battery. So it's a big perk for us. Cost for the redaction software, the server and storage. We elected to go with 1-year service and support, and then the in-squad camera installation for a total project cost of $183,277. I apologize, that is a slight increase from what was presented in your board packets earlier this week. I errantly overlooked the cost of the installation of the cameras into the squad cars. I believe they were in another line item, but they were budgeted along with this package, so I apologize for that. As with any system, there's going to be projected future costs to keep it functional and to keep it working and make repairs. So you're looking at a chart here that's going to kind of outline what our projected costs are going to be for the platform to keep it up and running. The body worn cameras themselves, based on the manufacturer recommendation and their average lifespan, they usually last 3 to 5 years. We came to a conclusion that in year 4, so that'd be after year 3, we'd begin budgeting to replace 1/3 of those cameras a year, and then we'd be in kind of a 3-year cycle in perpetuity, looking at a cost of about $7,200 annually, and then $185 per battery as needed. The in-squad replacement program, that's a little harder to predict. Panasonic projects an average lifespan of their in-car cameras 7 to 10 years. However, many of the departments we spoke to have been using the Panasonic in-car platform for well in excess of 10 years, and they're still running strong, having few problems. So I would anticipate we would be looking at 10 years plus for many of these systems. But of course, there's probably going to be a failure here or there, and it costs about $5,000 per system for the in-car to replace as needed. The server hardware and storage replacement costs at year 5, and it'll be every 5 years moving forward. We're looking at about $7,000, and that's to replace the wireless component that would go in the squad building that would upload the videos from the cars, and then some of the storage technical components. And then another big one is every 7 years, on average, we're replacing the server and upgrading the operating system on that server for a total cost of $8,000. Included with our initial purchase, all the licensing is included, so we won't have any licensing costs for the first 5 years. After that, for the current size of our squad package, we're at $83.40 for our squad licensing. Body-worn cameras are at $25.95, and then the licensing for the redaction software is $10,695. So if we, based on today's costs, every 5 years, we're looking at about $26,630. However, Panasonic does offer different licensing. If we choose to move forward and go with a lesser term, we could do that on an annual basis or a 3-year basis. So we're looking at between $5,000 and $6,000 per year for the licensing costs. This next slide talks about how we would intend to pay for the system if it's approved by the board. When we budgeted this, we identified $70,000 that we have set aside in our current DUI restricted funds. And through conversations that we've had with Joint Finance and Bob, cameras are a tried and tested qualified purchase through the DUI restricted funds. We've also been awarded the IPRF Village Safety Grant for $10,469. So that was an unanticipated grant, so that helped lower the cost a little bit. So we have a total offsetting funds of just over $80,000. So we would be looking for an additional capital request at that point for $102,808. If you look at the bottom, we came pretty close to what our original capital request was going to be, being $101,734. So this is just a little slide just to kind of show you what the camera the officers would be wearing, looking like, and show some of the key features. As I mentioned, it's got a 12-hour field swappable battery, 4 microphones, which are supposed to give real good sound quality and noise reduction. And as I mentioned before, it's fully compatible with the Arbitrator in-car system. The body cam itself is actually going to act as the microphone for our in-car camera. So anytime one of the triggering events for the in-car camera, the officer turns on lights or the siren, not only will the in-car camera activate, but so will the officer's body cams. So you'll help alleviate some of the incidents where an officer's responding lights and siren to a scene may forget to turn on their camera when they get out of the car. This will alleviate that concern by the camera triggering the body cam to activate. And Mark was actually kind enough to bring the sample of the body cam that was just released by Panasonic. So this is what it'll look like. It's not real intrusive for the officers to wear. Maybe you'd see them wear them kind of right around their chest area. And that would be running almost around the clock anytime they're interacting with the public. This just gives you kind of a tidbit of what the in-car forward-facing camera is going to look like. So as you see, it's a windshield mounted camera that kind of mounts up out of the driver's field of view, and it will be displayed on their in-car MDC. So what you're looking at that system is pretty much what the officer is going to see in their car, where it's displayed on their computer. That's just a little view of what the in-car camera would look like. That's going to mount in the back near the cage. And there'll be a rear-facing camera. It'll monitor everything that's going on in the back seat of the car anytime that we have someone secured in the back seat. One of the big benefits to going with a system such as the Panasonic Arbitrators, it gives us the opportunity to have a fully integrated system that works together at every level. It's going to allow the squad body-worn camera data to be stored in one streamlined, secure, and consolidated platform and server versus having to maintain two separate systems. One of the very big selling points for us on this platform is their ID Guard identity redaction solution that they're able to offer. So through some of the seminars that I've attended regarding body-worn cameras and the FOIA issues related to them is the process of redaction, and this was echoed in many of the conversations we had with some of the departments that are not using the ID Guard solution, is that the time it takes for staff to be able to redact video for purposes of FOIA, and even at times there's redactions required for court use. Springfield PD did a study on how much time they were allocating for ID redaction late last year. And they came to a conclusion that for every 1 minute of video that they had to review to redact, it took 12 to 13 minutes of staff time. So if you could think about, an average police incident on a domestic call, maybe taking 30, 35 minutes when it comes to a FOIA request, the amount of time it's going to take for staff to have to redact that manually, frame by frame, second by second. This software solution uses an artificial intelligence-based software. As soon as it's uploaded to the system, it goes to work. By the time the records clerk comes in the morning to have to start redacting, it's already identified most of the faces in the video. If Mayor, if you're in the video and we want to redact you throughout the video, they click on your face, the software takes care of the rest, and it'll redact your image for the remainder of that 30-minute video. So it's a huge time saver for us. In terms of implementation, it's taken us a long time to get to this point, and while we start to see it speed up a little bit, I can't say that it's going to be an overnight process. And full transparency, I think we're probably looking at having a full implementation by spring of 2021. That really isn't anybody's fault in particular. Panasonic and CDS is going to be able to have the product to the PD given on current delivery times and ready to install in probably 6 to 8 weeks post-purchase. What we're really going to fall at the mercy of is our vehicle upfitter and having the cameras and the hardware installed in the cars to make the system work. There's a huge backlog right now with squad upfitting. It's universal across the country. As you may be aware, last year Ford had some significant delays in their delivery of squad cars. So they all came in at once to every police department in the area. So of course, everybody is now rushing to try to get this backlog of cars upfitted. So by the time we can get our fleet of 12 through and get it installed, it's just going to take time. We can't schedule till we have the product on site. So that's 6 to 8 weeks. And then from that point forward, we're probably a month or two out before we can actually get our first car scheduled. So it's going to take time. We'll have a partial implementation, but by the time I could say that would be fully implemented, we're probably looking at spring of 2021. With that, I'll turn it over to the board if anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you. Good presentation. Long overdue. Trustee Masek?
This is like the final trimester of what I've been asking for. So I've been begging for this for coming on 6 years, starting with the cameras in the parks, the pools. So this is exciting. So first question, CSO is going to have cameras since they have public contact?
No, and that was a debate that we had, and it was an exhaustive debate. But when we looked at what the true purpose of the body cams are, it's more to document and protect officers and the public during what you may call moments of confrontation. Our CSOs, the type of calls that they've been handling has been scaled back. So their contact with the public is in a much different context than that of an officer. We're far less concerned about having to have recorded information on, a CSO going on a stray dog complaint or a parking complaint than we are an officer having go into a real hot call like a domestic or a barricaded subject, something of that matter.
All right, this next one, this presentation, because we got a lot of people probably on Zoom meetings. This presentation, I don't know if people at home can see the presentation on
Yes, they
Zoom.
can.
I'm told they
Yes,
are,
they
yes.
They can see this? Okay. Because I hear some people say they can't see it, some people can't see it.
Sure.
Okay, the DUI is at 70,000's in the bank right now, correct?
Correct.
So we're not gonna all of a sudden start, that's gonna be our funding down the road, future, we're gonna not be a Haynesville. And we're gonna start bumping up, trying to pay for this camera other ways than be a Haynesville, we're starting.
No,
Okay.
no. So that $70,000 is something that's been built up over years and years and years. We do have a little bit additional funding left in that account, but we didn't want to fully exhaust
Not
that
picking at
fund.
Haynesville. Then the second one you didn't touch base on is the downloading time. When the camera comes into the station, how is it uploaded?
So the squad cameras are going to download automatically as soon as they pull into range of the antenna that's going to be mounted on the back of the PD. The body cams themselves are going to download when the officer takes this off their vest. And actually, Mark, I think, has a dock with him. So a bay of docks like this is going to be mounted in the police department of common area. Officer comes in, takes this off, plugs it in, and the process of uploading into the server takes place. There's no physical manipulation by the officer. It's done automatically.
Okay, so there's no officer timeout.
Mark, can you speak to how long the download takes off the body room camera?
Thank you. So there's two different types of docks. This is a single bay dock. Part of the quote is also an 8-bay gang style charger where you can have 8 cameras simultaneously. Those will offload via a wired connection to the server structure, and they offload simultaneously 8 connections as fast as the network will allow. So if you figure about 4 hours worth of video on a usual 12-hour shift is about what we estimate. 4 hours worth of video times 8 cameras, you'll probably get that off of the body camera within 20 or 30 minutes or less. The camera will still need to remain in the docking station to finish charging. Fully charged batteries are about 3 to 4 hours from completely depleted to completely charged, and it'll charge while it's offloading.
Okay. Do these have any future, and I know we don't have them yet, but if something opened down the road where we got license plate recognition or face recognition, would these have software to upgradable 10 years from now?
So the cameras themselves are of the highest quality as far as image goes. And so when you look at the ID Guard redaction software, for example, that does facial recognition, it's going to pull that from the data that's provided from the camera. The Panasonic backend software where the evidence is housed and where the police will go to search for that evidence it's newly out and it's being constantly upgraded. One of the features that's in the timeline being planned for that software is the ability to search by license plate information or to search by face. So not facial recognition like this is Trustee Masek, but here is a face and I'm able to search by that face.
Or you got a license
has
plate
this-
going down the road, so you got someone that's got warrants.
Yeah, so you would be able to see, if I wanted to search for license plate 123 ABC, I could type that in. It would search all the videos to see if it had found license plate 123 ABC, and it would return those videos. That's not a current release. but
I'm just
yeah,
saying
but
if
it is
it's
planned.
feasible 5 years down the road, that we don't have to buy a new system 5 years down the road.
Yeah. So that's really a software.
Right, I understand
More of a
that.
software upgrade.
Right.
Yeah, and that is a planned feature down the road by Panasonic. I would hedge my qualifications there and just say a standard camera is never going to do as good a job as a dedicated license plate reader with an infrared that's bouncing off the plate. So you're not going to get like a Genetec or something like that that has, you know, a 98 or 99% read rate, but you will be able to use the camera in that way.
Well, for the people at home listening in, this is a three-tier system, and I've always said it's a three-tier system. Protects the officers, protects the public, and it protects the village from maybe a frivolous lawsuit. So this is, you know, maybe this is my baby waiting to happen. I've been begging for this, so I'm going to compliment the chief and whoever worked on it, Norm, whoever worked with you. This is something that's well needed, and with the problems we've had neighbor towns. So can't come soon enough. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Nope.
Trustee Yost?
First, I think this is long overdue, so thank you for presenting this and all the work that's gone into it. Really only one question. I'm curious as to whether there's anything that isn't included in here that you would have liked to see. Anything missing, any deficiencies from your perspective?
No, I think we really have, it's going to be one of the best systems, I think, of the police departments up in this area. Obviously, when you're buying the newest technology, you're going to get the newest features, which is one of the reasons we had a little bit of delay in getting this to the board, because Panasonic was in transition from their Gen 3 to now their Gen 4 product. And the Gen 4 product is what brought this, among other things, the user changeable battery. Before, we'd have to charge it, or if the battery failed, we'd have to send it in to have it replaced. And again, this ID redaction software was a big desire of ours, which is now available with this new system. So I can't think of anything that I could see us needing that we don't have. Norm, can you identify anything? No, I think we really got the total package here. A lot of hard work from Mark and Norm.
The only other question I had is with regard to storage, because I've heard that's one of the most critical items. We're comfortable with what we've outlined here is sufficient.
Yeah, I can't speak to the technical components. That would be better left to Mark or Amy, but they've had conversations throughout this entire process. I know Amy is very comfortable with the amount of data storage that we currently have. One of the big benefits to the system, that our server that we are purchasing, is we do have an open bay that should we need to expand that capacity, it's rather easy to do so.
Okay.
You know,
And
and if
nothing else. Thank you.
yeah, and if we ever have to look at cloud-based storage, there's that option too. But it's rather cost prohibitive.
Thank you, Trustee
Thank you.
Yost. Trustee Dominiac?
Well, thank you, first of all, for an outstanding report that you gave us ahead of time and clear presentation. It really answered a lot of questions, I think, for people.
Thank you.
Great teamwork on your part. I don't really have any other questions because some of them have already been asked, but I did notice that the in-squad cameras can last 7, 10 plus years, and the body-worn cameras can last 3 to 5. So what happens 5 years from now if technology has changed? Is there still going to be an integration, or is there going to be any issues with integrating the body-worn with the squads down the road?
Turn that over to Mark.
I think it's very unlikely that there would be problems with integration. You know, not pulling out my crystal ball, but for example, this new body camera that's launching in the next couple of weeks integrates with systems that are 7 to 10 years old with the same hardware that it's integrating with current systems. Panasonic as a manufacturer has traditionally been very conscientious about the way that they transition in public safety, recognizing that budget cycles are fairly long. And frankly, it's in their best interests as well, because if they require new infrastructure hardware every single time somebody wants to do an upgrade, that opens it up to going some, you know, if we've got to buy everything, then we're going to look everywhere else, as opposed to we've already got in-car cameras, we're just going to buy new cameras. That department is more likely to go to Panasonic. So from a practical standpoint, it serves them, their interest to do it that way, but it also does benefit public safety.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Trustee Johnson?
Yeah, my questions were answered, Your Honor.
Okay, looks like we're going to move forward as far as the financial portion of it. To the board, we know this has been in our capital funding for a few years now, so obviously I want to thank the police department for taking quick action. And thank you, Chief, for moving it forward as rapidly as you did. So
Thank you.
we'll put this on our next agenda. Jim, you have anything to add to that? Okay, so financially, this has been part of our capital anyway, so it's right in there. So, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next, we have a discussion on the EMB signs. This goes back several months. It's been continued and we finally had the opportunity to bring it here tonight. Michael, you want to bring us up to speed?
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter has gone back and forth. As you know, sorry, thank you. Can I?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're far enough away.
Okay, thank you. We have been going back and forth on this question about EMB signs for some times. There's been a public hearing scheduled for the planning commission, which has been continued based on the input. The planning commission really is looking for the input of the village board before we proceed with the text amendment. So I wanted to bring this matter to the village board. So I wanted to kind of walk you through our current ordinance. As you know, EMB signs, currently we do not allow them in our downtown district. We did have a variance which was approved, or actually the motion to direct the village attorney to draft the ordinance was approved for the United Methodist Church last year. But we do not allow EMB signs. Generally, our downtown sign district language basically requires compatible with the character of downtown, not to obscure, that interfere with the distinctive architectural elements. So this is one of the elements for our downtown designs. Maximum height, 4 feet, 20 square feet. All signs can be sandblasted wood, HDU, or face brick. And internal illumination is not permitted. So we actually So historically, based on this downtown sign ordinance, the typical downtown sign that we have approved, and which most businesses have proceeded with, is these are examples of what has typically been approved, staff's approved over the many years, based on the historical character of our downtown. The fundamental question before the board is, are electronic message boards appropriate for a historical downtown, historical in its very nature, historical character? So based on what we thought would be an intelligent analysis, we wanted to reach out to other communities. And based on any professional planning, any profession, you want to look at what I call best practices. What are the best practices? What do other communities do? Based on that, we worked with the Northwestern Municipal Alliance and did a fairly comprehensive survey. So I want to walk you through. So based on the Northwestern Municipal Alliance, they did a survey, all municipal communities throughout the Chicagoland area. Those responded, you can see that across the board, with one exception, electronic message boards are not permitted in their downtowns across the board. The only exception was Barrington does allow them for public use, public land use only. Now, the other communities that I'm aware of, in the southwestern suburbs or DuPage County, which are not incorporated in this survey. Just from personal perspective, personal experience, I know that EMB signs are not permitted in their downtowns. So based on that, the question before the board is, do they support EMB signs in the downtown? And if they do, would they be appropriate for commercial use? Would they should be limited only for civic use? So based on that, I'm looking for direction from the village board. But more importantly, the planning commission is looking for direction from the village board. So that's really the preface where we wanted to go with our discussion this evening. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. If we did support an amendment, would require a comprehensive amendment of our sign ordinance and our form-based code, and perhaps the way we handle downtown signage. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right, start with trustee Masek.
We don't have Lakeville, Lyndhurst up there, 2 competitors.
Well, for the record, Lindenhurst does not have a downtown. So we're only talking about downtowns. We're not talking about commercial corridors here.
Well, they got Grand Avenue.
That's not technically a downtown.
Okay. All right, right now, we've got 50% of our downtown non-existent, basically.
What?
50,
Sorry?
50% of our businesses our downtown business, 50% have gone. Would you agree or disagree on that aspect?
I'm sorry, could you clarify?
50%
Disagree.
vacancy.
I-
Vacancy.
No, I would respectfully disagree with
I
that.
disagree.
How many
Not
buildings,
yet.
how many buildings are gone?
Gone,
Downtown.
vacancies. Actually, our vacancy rate, I think we do have a potential vacancy challenge maybe next year, based on some of the COVID trends. But right now, our vacancy rate's probably frankly less than 20% based on my observations. You can probably count the vacancies on one hand along Main Street. There are some vacancies on Top Street and Lake Street. But right now, in fact, our major vacancy, we're already talking to potential users. So believe it or not, there's a fair amount of continued interest along Main Street. Continue Main Street. The stores don't stay vacant too long on Main Street. As you know, JJ Blinkers will be vacant. That's a 35-year-old business based on current trends and unfortunately, they will be vacating. But that's been the challenge business for many years. But I don't think respectfully, the vacancy rate's 50%.
So are we excluding now, we're going to exclude the library for EMB, we're going to exclude the grade school?
Well, first, as of right, as United Methodist Church showed us, that any institution or business also has a prerogative to come before the board and ask for a variance.
I understand that. That's what happened to Anastasia's. Anastasia's has a $8,000 deposit on a sign. That never happened. They got $8,000 sitting out there. And I'm looking at, every time I drive by to go to my office, I'm looking at a plastic bag. That was supposed to come up for reconsideration. That never happened.
But for the record, just for the record.
And they're not in the business district.
Correct.
I get that. They're not in the business district. But I'm still looking at why that hasn't come up. They got a plastic bag in it. They were going to make a monument sign out of it. I get it. I get it. And then I'm looking at Trustee Pierce's, and he put in a thing that he wants just black and white. Well, sometimes you're going to have a challenge with black and white when you've got Walgreens and you got branding on it. When you make it like him, Walgreens has red lettering. So you can't make it black and white. And I get there's variances, and the variances you come in and ask for, hey, can I have an exception? I'm begging for an exception. That's what a variance is. Walgreens is red. Sometimes you have branding issues. That's what we had with Aldi's, because they wanted, you know, the planning and zoning wanted a smaller sign, and Aldi says, no, we're not going to come in Antioch if you want change your sign. So I fully disagree with what Trustee Pierce said on certain, especially white lettering. That's a blinding white light. And if I had a sign, which I can have a sign, it would be obviously green lettering, because that's green is my branding.
Right.
So I understand the branding, but I'm just asking if this is going to restrict those two areas, because I get putting electronic message boards in the downtown district. That would be a tough challenge. But if you put it like on the, I'll give you, for instance, which would just be an idea thrown out on the new building, the Rivalry that's going up. And I'm not saying for advertising so much on the building, but it might be a great idea for a sign, village owned, if the owners would approve it, just for parking instructions, where to park for the theater, for the businesses, for certain operations. If we exclude it, that might be an informational sign. Hey, you can park here during certain hours. That might be a great program to instruct people where to park. And if you exclude signs altogether, because I think that would be, to help people where to park and whatnot, that might be a great idea.
Well, that's a good point. And respectfully, I think there are ways to achieve that without amending the code. I think there are through either through plan unit developments, again, the variance. But I think, if that business, the village, obviously it's a policy issue. If there's a business that comes downtown that the village believes is critically important to have great visibility from a signage perspective, you can also have the prerogative to incorporate PUD, which would provide that type of relief.
Because here's the problem. When I sat and hear stuff on the planning and zoning board, and when I hear people on the planning and zoning board, especially, I'll just use one business, Anastasia's, and you got people sitting on the board, why do you want a secondary sign? Your parking lot's full. That's just a crazy comment. When now Friday, we're gonna be shut down. People are
Right.
starving. People are hurting. You know, they're looking at getting attorneys to sue the governor, and you get other businesses, you know, they've got a banquet hall that's not being used, you know, and I don't think the planning and zoning ever has worked when you put restrictions up. When you put restrictions up, they're gonna sit there and say, we have to follow the restrictions. Or you got people in the planning and zoning where they say, I would like to see more brick on that sign. And that happened with Sandy Meyer's sign. I want more brick. And then we allow these wood signs. And the problem with their wood signs is you make private owners get these massive brick signs, and you got the village signs that are just 2x4s, 2x6s with, I mean, they're half of what we make other people do.
Well, to be fair, I think staff has been a little more flexible. We've worked with downtown businesses on allowing HTU board, which is less expensive than wood sandblast signs. And the only reason why we require.
But planning and zoning made Sandy Meyer build a $15,000 sign.
That's before my time.
I understand that, but planning and zoning, they don't work with what the board says, and the village sits there and puts these other plank signs up. It just seems like there's a disconnect between planning and zoning and what goes on. And more regulation we put there, they sit there and say, no, I want to see this, or you can get away with this.
That's why it's important that I get direction from the board tonight, so I can go back to the plan commission and say, this is the gospel. The village board is looking for this direction. There's clarification. There's no ambiguity. And then based on that, we can amend the code so we have a consistent application of the code. And frankly, that's why this is before the village board. The plan commission wants direct input, direct direction from the village board.
Because I think when you go through Gray's Lake and you see their welcome sign, it's a nice brick sign. I mean, that's maybe we're gonna park your business. When you see Antioch, welcome to Antioch sign, and it's a piece of plywood with 2x6s, and it's got, you don't have who the president of the, you don't have the mayor's name up there, which all the other communities do. Now, grant you, Gray's Lake doesn't have that, but most communities have that. I mean, it's not in sync with these communities. I bet you if you look at every one of these communities, they have the president of the community.
Well, again.
And they have better welcome signs in their communities.
It was based on.
There's a disconnect to what the village does to what you make the business owner do. You want the business owner to spend a lot of money and the village spend no money.
No, I mean, to be fair, I think you want a BMW
Well,
at
you
Chevrolet's
put- you
cost.
put
I mean,
the-
I
you
had
put
a
the-
finite.
You put the antique store, that sign's well more costly than the village sign.
No, but I had a finite limited budget. I was directed based on a budget that was limited. I mean, could we had approved all brick and spent, $50,000 per gateway sign? Absolutely.
I understand
But
that.
that was not my direction.
I'm just saying, we can't have one more restrictive than, if we're the corporate authority, we have to keep everything equal. We can't be sitting there spending 5 cents and make everybody spend 10,000.
Right, but again, for the record, our gateway signs, a downtown business could use the same materials as our gateways. It was basically HDU board. A downtown business who wanted to use that type of material, I would allow. So I think we are consistent. And I think we've been a lot more flexible and more sensitive to cost, not only for the village taxpayers who paid for those signs, but more importantly for the businesses. So we've tried to address their budgetary limitations. At least-
Well, I think for the record, I think those signs look kind of poorly constructed. I think more signs, people spend the dough for the signs to make their business look attractive. And those signs don't look attractive.
I know what our gateway signs,
No, our village signs, they don't look attractive.
our village gateway signs.
Yeah. So that's just for the record. I think.
For the record, I think the board approved them.
We approve of that.
I understand but since we're changing it, I'm just saying, we're making folks spend more money than we spend. If we're gonna change this document, we gotta be consistent with what we're making other folks spend.
Again, respectfully, we're allowing the same materials for the business owner who wants to put a sign up in front of their store as the village.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't like, I just couldn't support that type of sign.
Well, if you want to revisit it, we can revisit them. We just put them up a year and a half ago.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Yost, please.
Just a quick question with regard to the survey. Are those all absolute no's? So
That's
the
correct.
language that we're looking here would not be consistent,
With exception of Barron.
with the exception of Mary. Okay,
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac.
I think the question for me is, do we follow the plan that we have for downtown Antioch, which is basically been based on feedback from residents when we did our survey? And we asked the residents about historic downtown, and that was one of the things that they really loved, and they loved the character. And I think the struggle for me is that we collectively worked long hours on the sign code. We collectively agreed to the sign code. And planning and zoning has asked us to decide whether we're going to stick with the sign code or not, because I wasn't clear on the comment about planning and zoning wants to change things. They're trying to enforce the code. In fact, I think there's been pushback on planning and zoning when there have been variances granted or recommendations by staff to give a variance, and asking the question of why are we doing that if we have the code? So for me, if our goal is to enhance our downtown district, EMBs don't fit. We've got data that shows that other communities see the value of protecting the historic nature of downtown and not turning them into little mini Las Vegases. I think that if you put a plan together, you need to execute on the plan, and you need to let that plan unfold before you start changing horses in midstream. And I think you're always going to find someone that's going to come up with an argument to say why we shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z. But if we don't stick to what we have all collectively agreed to doing, we'll never move forward. So the question for me really is, do we follow our plan and our goal for downtown and keep the historic look, or do we abandon it and start allowing these EMB signs? And I think it's probably not a surprise to anybody sitting at this dais or in this room or on Zoom that I would not be in support of altering our goal for the historic downtown, which is to not allow these signs because they clash with what we're trying to achieve. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
The only one comment that I do have, Trustee Dominiac, and I kind of agree with you to a certain extent, is obviously when we implemented the sign ordinances and our residents voted and so forth, is we were in different times than we are now. So, kind of what Trustee Masick has said is a lot of our businesses are struggling and circumstances have changed, making the dollars a little bit tougher. And, businesses that we're trying to attract, that they see a more stringent sign ordinance based on these times, that may sway their decision one way or another. So as much as I agree with you, we also have to be flexible based on the survey that was done a year or 2 years ago, or whatever the case may be. That's my one comment.
Your Honor, can I respond to that?
Sure can. Go right ahead.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but I think Michael also just made the comment a little while ago that there's a demand for Main Street and we're not having a lot of trouble. Michael, have we had any businesses that have said that our sign code is too stringent and so they're not going to come to Antioch?
I'm not aware of any. I mean, I've had businesses on the commercial corridors, 173, who sometimes want more signage. And for the record, I think Trustee Johnson makes a great point, and I think we're very sensitive to that. That's why I think we've been very, very flexible with temporary signage, working with businesses during this downturn and COVID crisis. But no, I'm not aware of any businesses that have walked away from their proposal based on signage. I have had requests to have more signage, and we either do a variance, and we, at that point, we bring it to the village board. And again, staffs try to be sensitive businesses as it relates to materials. We don't require all wood, sand, plastic signs anymore because they can be expensive. So we do allow HGU board, which is a lot more sensitive to small businesses. It in some ways achieves the same impact because you can, do graving, wood graving on that type of board. So,
Mayor, I got one other question.
Go ahead.
So this is all due respect. I've been sitting here 6 years and these surveys are kept thrown out and I've never seen the questions or the survey results or who asked the surveys or anything like any surveys, who surveyed, what actual questions and some of the signs, the EMB signs in the business district might look a lot better than all these gosh darn little signs when you're going through the corridors and you see 1,000 signs in the parkway, especially in the car dealerships, when you got them illegally past everything else, and maybe one EMB sign would do the trick. One EMB might get rid of 100 signs past the pole. Or you get all these flags waving because they can't advertise just like all the competitors are advertising. They may have a hamburger that might have double the cheese than the other guy, but they can't advertise it. So they got to put 100 signs in the front of the business to say we got 3 times the cheese. That's the problem with not having EMB sign. They're throwing 1,000 signs on the front of the business. Look at us. Give us a chance. That's the problem you have with an EMB. No surveys, never seen them, haven't seen the questions asked, and we got too many signs in the yard because they don't have a right to throw their message out to the public where other businesses have the right. Culver's, everybody's in competition for the burgers. McDonald's has the sign, everybody's in competition for the same hamburger. So, everybody should have the same fair shake of the game.
well, with regards to answer your question directly, with regards to the survey, I actually prepared the questions. I submitted those questions, and I tried to keep it really simple. A, do you have a downtown? Because obviously, if there's not a downtown, if the community does not have a downtown, then this discussion, it's not really applicable. If you have a downtown, do you allow electronic message graphic boards in your downtown? And if you do you distinguish between civic, commercial?
Mike can make a survey too. If you have a fire, do you want 2 fire trucks showing up? Or would you have 1 fire truck showing up that has water in it?
But those are pretty simple questions.
I
They're not biased.
I've never seen the questions asked, is
I
my
just told you
point.
the questions.
But I haven't seen them. You told me the questions tonight, but every time a survey is brought up, we've done surveys, I've never seen the questions. I've never seen if they're the same people surveyed, the same businesses, because I've never, and I brought this up the last meeting, 32 years being in this downtown business district, 0 times been surveyed, 0. So I don't know if it's the same 3 people getting surveyed.
No, that's a good point. It's a fair
So
point.
I've never seen who's getting surveyed, what the questions are. And I can tell you right now, another person's never been surveyed because Anastasia's never been surveyed. The that other little restaurant on Lake Street, they never been surveyed. So I can go through my list of people I've asked, have you been surveyed? No, I've never seen a survey. So that's why I've asked. I've never seen a survey questions. I don't know who's getting surveyed. So we got to stop with, we sent surveys out. They just don't work. I don't know if it's the same group of people.
Oh, no, I take your point. I take it in consideration.
Because surveys are done by professional people. That's why Michigan University does surveys, because they're done where the questions aren't leading. You can do a survey where the questions lead people to an answer.
I understand that.
So that's why I've never seen the questions. I can do a survey to get the answer I want.
You're right.
So,
It's like a poll. You can do
and that's why I've asked, 6 years I've asked, see the questions, see who's getting surveyed, never got the questions answered.
So, we can have a separate discussion at the board about surveys.
Well,
That's a fair point.
Mike, I sat here for 6 years asking for it.
Well,
And I'm the only guy up here that's not entitled to get those answers. If Scott asked for them, I'm sure he would get the answers. He'd get in his email the next day.
Excuse
When
me,
Ed
Ed,
asked him,
Ed, this is not about surveys tonight,
Okay.
please.
no, it's a fair point.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
The only comment I have is, I think there is a place for E and B signs. I think the biggest question in my mind on the whole industry of these signs is, do we have a standard? And I think most communities that I drive through that have video game screens on them where you can actually watch a movie, I think that's the most distractive. I think there's boards out there that really would serve a purpose in some districts. I agree. I think the downtown, as far as the historical downtown, I think that would probably take away from the historical look. So I believe I like that in the code, but there are areas of the community that could have some messaging type signs, but I'm not in favor personally of the type of signs that actually move and do all these things. I mean, Walgreens and some of the signs that we did approve, those are actually signs that are static. They're letters. And I think other than having the old fashioned stick letters, it is probably a better look than that. I believe the biggest question we have in our downtown district is more of the institutional type, the church, the library, and that's probably the question we need to ask ourselves is, would we allow it for those types for the institutions that want to put a message? Because, the fire department has one, that's in the downtown district. So we already have some precedent that we do have those types of signs that are for messaging. So that would be the bigger question that I would want to ask the board is, do we want to look at the institutionals versus the historical business district?
And that's a good point. And the amendment is actually before you, Your Honor, is an actual a change which would allow civic special uses. So a civic use, which I define as a municipality, a library, a religious institution, they would have the right to come before the village board and ask for a special use in the downtown district. And that's the actually proposed amendment that's before you. Whether there's support for that, that's, I'm looking for discussion.
Correct. But I do definitely agree with our sign code is actually pretty good. We spent a lot of hours on it, and I concur with most of the board here that we don't want to reinvent the wheel on it. We did spend many hours on it, but I do think signs are probably one of the most difficult tasks in any community because they are so difficult to regulate. So anything else from the board? So where do we go forward with this? You want to bring it forward? We have two trustees that really didn't comment because they're not here. I'll ask the board one more time if they want to move it forward. Trustee Masek?
No, I think the other trustees should weigh in also.
Trustee Yost?
I would agree with that.
Okay. Trustee Dominiac?
I think so. I think
Okay.
maybe you put it again on the count next month.
Okay, that's fine. And Trustee Yost?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Trustee Johnson? Yeah, well, I think it's good that we had it here tonight. I think we have some questions that were asked. Maybe we can modify those a little bit. Maybe we get some answers at the next COW meeting, and maybe we can bring it back.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Our annual meeting schedule, do we have that, Jim, somewhere? Lori?
Yeah, this is just the annual meeting schedule that's required to be approved every year, and I wanted the board to have an opportunity to provide comment before it's placed on the consent agenda at the next village board meeting.
Okay, board, Ed, do you have any comment on that?
These still going consistent with Lions Club meetings, right? We don't know. Yeah, it's fine.
Trustee Yost?
I had no concerns, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
I'm fine with it.
And Trustee Johnson?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, we're gonna push that one forward, Lori. Okay,
Thank you.
are we in executive session tonight?
No.
No executive session.
Communication.
I have one thing. I have a couple of people like normally on a meeting like this, it's our COW meeting. We really don't have public discussion. So I would bring it to the board. I did get a note that somebody in the audience wanted to comment on the body camera, so if the board would allow, if you allow, I would let her speak. I got this from Rachel. Crystal, if you'd like to speak, I got a note from Rachel that you'd like to make a comment on that. You have to come up to you got the speaker so the folks can hear you at home.
All right. Well, thank you for giving me the chance to speak, Your Honor, and everyone up here. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm preaching to the choir about the body cams. The chief, everyone did an amazing job on that. So I figured this is kind of going to give you a community sense of how we feel about body cams, a more personalized thing about this. So bear with me, please. So my name is Crystal Kunkel. I'm a wife and a mother to 3 beautiful daughters. My family owns and runs a local contracting company in Antioch. I've been an Antioch resident for a combined 10 years. Since the second time I came back to Antioch, I decided to buy my forever home. Then sorry about that, sorry, I looked up and I lost it. Where I could raise my daughters in a safe town with amazing schools and a town that embraces families more than I've seen in all the places that I've lived. Which brings me to now. Today as a nation, we are in a civil unrest. This year has not been kind to so many. And even as I speak, lives are forever changing. We don't know what's coming in a day, a week, a year. Some say we are living in hell with no ending. I believe we will rise up and prevail. It might take some time, but we will get there. This year, so much has happened. I never thought I'd see it, a lot of it in my lifetime, but boy, was I wrong. One of the biggest things we've seen are protests and riots, which is why I'm standing here in front of all of you, asking you to please consider giving body cams to officers. We all watched Kenosha burn and saw the many nights of unrest Kenosha residents experienced. Even we were targeted for conflict, but I'll get into that later. Some of you have gotten to know me and know how much I care about our town and all who reside here. So for me to be here facing all of you, that is something I truly believe in and have done and I'm passionate about. Before I go into each of that, I feel we need to back up and understand what police officers and I kind of feel bad saying this because, they already spoke about this. So what police officers all over are going through. This year alone, 234 officers have died, not including 14 canine officers, all in the line of duty. 39 died from gunfire and 12 from vehicle assaults. 4 of the canine officers died from gunfire. That leads me to the next thing. The top 2 most dangerous situations for police, domestic abuse calls and traffic stops. In Antioch, we've had 185 arrests. 20 were violent crimes and 6 were domestic abuse and battery calls and 10 were dangerous stops. So I stated above, you can see our officers are dealing with the top 2 dangerous calls. Hopefully all of you will start to see why I feel body cams are important for our officer. Now that brings me to 4 key factors on why I believe our police officers should have body cams. And I'm sorry, I'm preaching to the choir because he already did this. Body cams warn, increase transparency and citizens' view of police legitimacy. Body cams have a civilizing effect, resulting in improved behavior among police officers and citizens and also protection for both. Body cams have evidentiary benefit that expedite resolution of citizen complaints or lawsuits and improv evidence for arrests and prosecutions. Body cams can provide opportunity for police training and opportunity for continuing education credits. I know this is a big decision going forward. I just ask that you all take a good look around us and see all that is happening. Just last night, Philly had riots and looting done due to a police-involved shooting. Sad part is that it was justified. But when we are in a world of technology where we can capture everything by phones, and that's exactly what happened. Someone filmed a part of the incident and posted, causing yet another uproar, no matter what the truth was. Just this week, in Waukegan, another police-involved shooting, the officer was fired and everyone is waiting to see the body cam footage. None of us know what exactly transpired that night, but with body cam footage, it will shed some light on that and what happened. I'm not saying that this is the only tool police need for protection or the community. However, body cams combined with other investigative measures can help tremendously in investigations, no matter if it's for a citizen or an officer. My last thing I will say on this matter is that our town, Antioch, was faced with uncertainty. And the events that happened in Kenosha regarding a resident, we had to prepare for conflict that was allegedly coming. We had curfews and we had many agencies working together with our police officers to ensure community's protection. I happen to live just on the other side of Centennial. So this hit very hard at home. I can't explain the stress and fear that ran through me. More fear for my children and keeping them safe. I didn't sleep for days, but in my neighborhood, Antioch Police, along with so many other law enforcement agencies, came together to protect us all. I can't express my gratitude enough to all of them. Thank you. We all, as a community, came together, but what scared me in the days after that was, what if conflict had happened? What if our officers met the wrath that Kenosha did? All they would have had was their word versus conflict with phones. So to me, in this world we are living in, we need to give our officers every tool to use so they never experience that their word is not enough. We are a community that bands together, and body cams protect all, community and our fellow officers. So thank you for giving me the time to speak on this matter. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Want us to put that in record?
But it's,
They can keep it.
okay. If it was like grammar
No, she
checked,
probably
I'd say,
got it.
here, go have it, but it looks like my 19-year-old wrote it. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay. That's nothing else on the agenda, so if there's nothing else, I would entertain it.
I just had one question, if I could, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Actually, two. Where are we with, and this is, I guess, to Michael, where are we with the wayfinding signage? I know it got taken down. Are we going to put it back up, or what's the game plan there?
Yes, we actually have completed the fabrication of the actual signs, as you call it, in the summer. We did install them. I know there were some concerns about the design and installation. Specifically, some of them were posted on the utility poles. I know there were some express concerns about that. I know we had some trustees also concerned about the final design. So at a very small price, we did have them modified. So I think the final product looks much more attractive. But they're currently in our garage right now, waiting to be installed by Public Works. We have been going back and forth on what type of post. I think we've come to a decision on a simple wood post. And those will have to probably be painted white and probably installed, but I don't have a answer on when those will be installed. But Public Works, I believe, will be installing them. So, but I'm not sure of when. I'm not sure what timeline.
Jim, do you have any sense of that? Just because the holidays are coming, so.
I really don't. I can find out for you.
Great, thank you. And my other question was, in reviewing the minutes, it kind of jiggled my mind. At a previous meeting, I had brought up the fact that my Facebook political page was being followed. And I asked if that could be investigated to find out what was going on there. Jim, do you have an update on that for the board? I'm sorry, and just to clarify that was the Village of Antioch was following my political page.
Yeah, and we did investigate it. And as it turns out, we have about 6 or 7 people who have access or the ability to post either as administrators or commenters, or not commenters, but people have the ability to post. We talked to all of those people, none of whom said that they were the ones that essentially liked, which we think when you like something, you automatically start following it. As it turns out, to post on or do something administratively on the village's Facebook page, you have to go through your own or another Facebook page. And I discovered that the people that have that ability were using their personal Facebook pages to access the village Facebook page. So the investigation did not reveal an individual that did that. We were able to ascertain that the village, at the very same time that we followed your page, which was, I believe it was like 10:20 on a Saturday morning, there were 28 follows or likes within a matter of a minute or two. So somehow the village page liked or followed 28 different pages simultaneously. And they were all, seemed to have a nexus with the village. There's the village of Fox Lake, I believe the village of Winthrop Harbor. There were other elected officials, but primarily businesses. There were only a few that I saw that weren't village businesses, maybe businesses in other communities. So I do not believe that you were singled out in any way. I think it was part of a batch or group. However, to ensure that we have control of what is happening on the village page, and also to, from my perspective, be able to control what is being posted or be able to hold somebody accountable, for posting something. If something inappropriate were posted, it would be incumbent upon me to do something about that or reprimand or discipline that person if they had violated our policies or what have you. So we are implementing some changes. Moving forward, we are limiting, we're going to have a smaller control group. There's going to be less people that have that ability. Those people will have to be village employees. And to access, we've also unliked, it's also my opinion, you can tell me if you're on the same page as me, but I don't think the Village of Antioch's page is there to be reacting to other pages, liking, disliking, commenting, following, what have you. So we've had internal meetings to speak about this. We've unliked and unfollowed because, if we're going to like a particular business, we should like all the businesses. We shouldn't be singling out businesses to like or not like. So that's my thinking. We've put a disclaimer on our site on, these are informational things. We're not necessarily going to be reacting or commenting or answering the different posts that we get. So some of them draw a great number of comments after one of our posts or many of our posts. We're going to have one single point of contact for inquiries. If there is some verbiage about if you have questions or what, send an email to us and we will have answers. We'll have a single person to answer that through email. And we're changing the way you access it. So we're creating an alternate way through a village domain to access the village page, which will be a village domain issued to a village employee, so that if something were to happen, I would have the ability to inspect the activity log of that page, which is only to be used to access the village page. So it essentially gives me the ability to hold somebody accountable for a particular post or like, or whatever happens on our page. Other than, some other internal meetings we've had with, what we're going to post or not post, I think we need to be strategic about what we're putting out there. But we're implementing some checks and balances. So, if somebody is to want to post something, they're going to have to come through the administrative offices, either me or Lori in our absence. We'll have other people. So no single entity or person can just start putting stuff out there. So we've implemented these changes. They're not fully implemented. I don't think have everybody in the control group set up yet, but these are the changes we're making to hopefully prevent the village page from inappropriate activity or response, and to hold those that are posting accountable for what's on our page.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Sometimes things happen and they lead to good outcomes and quality improvement. So Sounds like this was an opportunity to really take a look at social media in general. Thank you. It's a challenging area.
Okay. All right, thank you. Amy, you can't talk, can you? Can you give us an update? Because I've noticed even that we've been getting hacked ourselves. I mean, this week alone, my stuff got hacked and I sent some text messages to trustee Pierce sent me one, and I believe trustee Masick sent one about getting gifts for, I think Dan got one. So and how do we monitor that? Because obviously it could be dangerous, especially text.
So it is not a hacking event. The Antioch emails are not compromised. If you would look, even though they are using your name, they are setting up Gmail accounts. And so the from is from a Gmail account. I could block the entire Gmail domain, but as you would anticipate, we would lose a lot of email communication. So the only way to do it is by reporting it to me and blocking those individual emails. I could put in a block for gift cards so that anything that mentions a gift card then would also be blocked, but that could also interfere with any businesses or opportunities going to Michael in correspondence that way. So we always have to tread lightly with that. With these given services being free, it is the way that spoofers out there all over the world are using it to try to get to it. And basically you respond saying, yeah, hey, what's up? And they say, oh, I need you to buy me 20 gift cards. Let me know. And then I just need the codes off of them.
Right.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a very common scam. With being a public entity, all of the elected officials, your names are out there. And there are programs that they're called sweepers, and they sweep websites, they get the names. And so there is unfortunately no way to prevent it with having that information out there in a public domain. What we could do is we could remove the email addresses and have a form fill that you have to go up to the website to say, contact us and fill in the form. But then that goes against the open communication that we're trying to do.
I just wanted to question it.
Can we-
Okay, thank you.
Can you create a mailbox just that we can just send it to a spam mailbox?
If you would like.
I mean, I think that would be the easiest thing. Then you could just, if we get like from him,
Yes.
that we got from him, then we send it to it, instead of sending it to slamming your mailbox with nonsense, then we get a mailbox that we just type in spam, and it goes to that mailbox, and you can sit there and just say, okay, I'm gonna block that email.
Right. Actually, I would prefer to have it come to my email so that I'm more responsive to it versus checking a secondary account.
Sometimes that might compromise your email, no?
It wouldn't though. I know first of all, none of the ones that are being forwarded to me have scripts in them. They are all related. They're basic text emails that are just asking you for, hey, I have a favor for you. There's nothing in there that's clickable. That stuff is being blocked. So these are just the basic, they're looking for a dialogue with somebody, kind of, the prince that wants to give you his millions. They're just looking for your millions instead.
I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention in case somebody else.
Yes, so always make sure to look at the actual email address, not just the name, because
Right.
I can put into my email on Gmail, I could put, the best person on this earth. And that would be my name showing up for everybody. So I could pick whoever I wanted to be.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Trustee Dominiac, second by trustee Hughes, all in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Over.